Hey guys, welcome to the Newbie Real Estate Investors in New Jersey podcast. I'm Joey Chan, have my partner, Jonathan Boyle.
Hey guys, we got some great news for you guys.
Yeah, so we just actually partnered with the Results Only Mentorship Program. Hit us up if you want more information.
And we have a very special guest host on today, Sean Radiant Sun. And today we have a special guest, Bill Bates. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thanks for having me, guys. Been looking forward to this for a while.
Yes, I know. We've been talking since, oh God knows, maybe about a year.
Yeah,
right.
I remember. I ran into you at that wholesaling Tang event up in North Jersey. I don't usually go to North Jersey. Jay, a mutual friend of ours, Jay Viking, and some other people were speaking, so I thought it was intriguing. So I met you for the first time. I'm like, I'm looking across. It's like, is that Joey? I'm like, I gotta go say hi afterward. But I hit you on Facebook, and I was waiting for you to respond, and you're like, oh hey.
Yeah, that's right. Tell the audience a little bit about what you did previously in terms of the career, bridge that into how you got into real estate.
Okay. Well, prior to doing real estate full time, I was in the wireless retail business. So I was in the wireless industry. I worked for Sprint and Verizon for years. Started off as a sales rep, then I made store manager pretty quickly. Pretty much had every title that had manager in front of it or in the back of it for 19 years, director, whatever. I traveled, I had territories, I had multiple employees at different times. You know, I loved what I did for a brief period of time. Probably the first maybe 8 to 10 years was cool. And after a while, man, it just started feeling like a job and it just got burned out. And I had been always searching for something different than what I was doing. And I always knew what I wanted to do, which essentially was open my own real estate management firm, like flip houses and be a landlord and stuff, because I used to watch those flip house shows back with Armando and everything back in the day, you know, and the guys from CT Homes out in Boston, you know, back in like 04, 05. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I really love that. I always knew that that's something I wanted to do, but I just didn't know where to start and so on. Basically, I did 19 years in retail, had really bad hours, just a step above restaurant hours. You know, I had like the 7 a.m. to 12 midnight when I was a district manager because your phone doesn't stop. And then I was in stores all the time, made a lot of money, didn't have a life, didn't know how to enjoy life, didn't know how to pause and stuff like that. So that was basically what I did prior to real estate, really.
Wow. Bill, I just to give a background of why I'm here, guys. Me and Bill actually did real estate about the same time, I think. Well, actually, Bill probably had a little bit more of a head, but his focus wasn't all the way there, right? And I've known Bill for the past 4 years, I think, going on. July will be 4 years, 2020. Mm-hmm. And I never really got a chance to sit and hear Bill's story in this manner. And I can relate to a lot of that retail stuff that you're going through. Just hearing you talk about it is bringing back memories of like late hours. Like, no.
Especially this time of year, man.
This time of year, like, oh, man, 24 hours. I couldn't. Man, I don't know how we did it, but it's really interesting.
Do you have Timberlands in a size 9?
I should have put everybody on before I left.
Let me ask you, how did you end up actually getting into real estate after, you know?
I was sort of doing the wireless thing while I was doing real estate. First thing I did is I did a house hack. So I bought a duplex. I did the typical this is back in 2008. I did a typical FHA loan, 3.5% down, lived in one half, rented out the other. And that was my first rental property in upstate New York, because that's where I'm originally from. So that was in Syracuse, New York. That was my first real taste of being in real estate. And that was a few years after I was saying, hey, this is what I want to do. I knew that was an area where I did not want to lay permanent roots. So I'm thinking, I had that mindset of just, hey, how am I going to make money off of this? And what's the best way to do it? By buying a multifamily versus a single family. And, you know, after reading like Rich Dad Poor Dads at like age 24, I kind of had that mentality. And I actually bought that house when I was 27, roughly. So I kind of had that mentality. So I said, hey, I didn't know that was going to be the launch of me doing it full time at that time. So that's how I got started, essentially.
Okay, nice. So how did you go about like getting the education and the know-how to kind of do that? Like what made you into kind of like the person you are today?
Well,
when did you start making that transition?
I'd like to say I've always been self-made. I've always had a side hustle even as a kid, back to when I was 9 years old, and I would steal wooden dowel rods from the wood shop class, make nunchucks, and sell them to kids when I was 8 years old. My father came home from work one day. I had like 20 kids swinging nunchucks in our front yard, selling them for like $10, $15 a piece. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, but what really got me started on the education was I was doing a lot of YouTube, podcasts, Gary Vee, a lot of like motivational stuff, probably around 2011 for a number of years in YouTube. And that basically was during my work and so on. I plug in a podcast, listen to stuff on the road and everything. And I didn't really get the education. Like I'd be like, wow, I see a property. Like I can do something with that. That's a great property. And I drive by these deals and I really didn't know what to do with them. Like, I'm like, okay, well, the only way I know to get funding for a house is go and get a 20% or an FHA loan and, fund this. So like around 2017, when I met Sean in the group that we got introduced to up in Langhorne, the Renatus group, that's where I really got that aha moment, because I had done a couple of Fortune Builder weekends where they kind of give you the bread. It was like $500. They give you the breadcrumbs. They kind of lead you down the trail, give you some breadcrumbs. Then when you actually get to the door to actually get all the education, like, hey, here's this mastery program for $50,000. No, I don't want that. I don't mind paying to educate myself, but you guys are fly by night. You're going to be gone after this weekend. I'm never going to hear from you, and I'm going to call into some call center. So I had tried Fortune Builders, but when I got introduced to the local group that me and Sean got involved in, we basically actually think we were joined maybe a month apart. I remember Sean coming in. And when I got to this thing, I'm thinking, who's this guy, Brian Mira? Who's this guy? Is this guy just a snake oil? Is this guy going to sell me? I'm like, who is this guy? And I see him come out in the suit, the hair and everything. And I'm like, I kind of like his look. He's an interesting guy, but I got to see, what's he got to say? You going to just sell me on something? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, it was impressive. But before I got into the room with Brian, I got to meet people in the community. And I was finally like, there. I'm like with all these like-minded people who listen to the same podcasts I do, read the same books I do. Yeah, I've kind of like, okay, well, I pretty much at that point already made up my mind that I'm going to sign up for this no matter what it costs. Brian didn't even say anything at that point. And I sat through the presentation with Brian for 45 minutes. I basically looked at him and said, I was in the front row, like head of the class. And I said, where do I sign up? He's like, no, I can't take your money right now. You're going to have to come back for one more intro. And I was like, okay, thinking, what's up with this? And we broke apart, and the study group that was going on with the members, those were members of the group already. So I got to interact with them again. I remember there was a guy named Fred Pisimo. I think we all know Fred for the most part. Fred was one of the people I connected with and a couple of others, but me and Fred literally closed the place. Like they literally almost had to kick us out because I had found such a connection with him on a mindset level. I'm like, wow, like where were these people been for the past like 8 years where I've been listening to podcasts and trying to find these people that I listen to on a daily basis. So essentially upgraded my class of people and I surrounded myself with the right amount of people. And I was like, this is the group I'm meant to be with. And that's where I really got the education. The education was great, but the people, local, not just, somebody that leaves for the weekend and doesn't come back like the Fortune Builders, had a real connection with people that I associated with on a weekly and daily basis with the Facebook group, phone calls, text messages. Most of the education I got was from my interactions with people because I'm so inquisitive, or I'd remember a conversation I had with Hone or Jason or Sean or whoever, though. Like I literally stuck with the head of the class. I really latched on to the people that were really doing stuff, as I always had. Like I basically, I connected myself with the rock stars of the group, or that I knew that we're going to be rock stars, and basically we're all together still, and we're the ones who are succeeding. So that's what I did.
He really made me, y'all, the rock star. That's why.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. I went to a lot of networking events. I went to Nick Tang's things. I went to like Glenn Gallucci's, like a lot of other people in northern New Jersey. And, like eventually Joey and I met at one. To be honest, I hardly remember the interaction. Sorry, Joey. But then, we like met up for a property he saw in Belleville. And, I mentioned it almost every podcast pretty much, I guess, because I'm really grateful for it. But, I met Joey from that, and now we're partners doing, like fix and flips, wholesales.
Nice.
That's pretty dope. I try to have that relationship with Bill, but he just said, I just don't like looking at you. And I'm like, man. No, actually, I'm grateful for Bill too, because he's an individual that I met early on. He gave me confidence in building a portfolio because of his expertise to actually screen clientele for rentals. And I did an episode on the 925 Investment Group YouTube channel shouting Bill out for his help that he always provides. But I think you were with us in that episode, if I'm not mistaken. Or you might have been on speaker. I forget.
I was on a phone call, and you had JL in the back seat filming, and you were doing you put your finger up to some website that I bought the domain name from but never really launched, and it was in the video. And if people watch the video, they try to find that URL. It doesn't exist. It goes right to GoDaddy. But you were giving me a shout out, and you edited that in perfectly. So yeah, I remember that. I actually remember that phone conversation. Actually.
Yeah, me too. It was a really good, I think, milestone in our relationship where it's like, oh man, it feels good to have confidence and trust in one another to perform for sure. Besides from friendship, but just on a business level, and like you said, a like-minded mindset,
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bill, kind of transition from the learning stage into the doing stage, right? What are you currently doing now? Meaning what types of business? I know you're a real estate agent. Talk a little bit about that. Right. And what you're doing in terms of investing as well.
Do a little bit of everything. I guess I'm more or less, I did a number of wholesales. I've done a number of JV wholesales. I own 10 buy and hold properties, not counting the one in Syracuse that I just sold this year after 12 years. And I also am a real estate agent. I don't focus too much on being an agent. I use being an agent to leverage being a better investor. MLS access, approaching sellers if I can't sell it, buy it, or wholesale it under, off market, or they want full retail, I can sell it, etc. But being an agent, I leverage a lot more on the investor side. I can sell myself properties, walk away with the property and a commission, and just a number of ways to kind of max out the benefit of being a realtor. But I don't like being a realtor. I don't like working with clients as much. I love investing. I love being a landlord. You don't think you'd have a lot of people hear them say that, but I love flipping. I love taking something ugly and making it nice, and just a little creative process. And, like I said, while I bought my first house, that duplex, that I was already handy as it was, but then I got first hands-on knowledge about how things work and the mechanics of a house better. And I put decks on my house. I just did all the work myself as a self-do-it landlord. And that essentially gave me the handiness, but that also gave me the ability to kind of run job sites and know what things cost and know how jobs work and so on. Basically, I do all of that in a nutshell right now currently.
Bill, what are your thoughts on hiring and doing yourself? Because I hear that you are hands-on a lot. So when do you actually hire out to save you time on that process? Even though you know you could do it, but when do you make that transition?
That is, I've had so much growth in the past year and a half that I essentially almost have to start outsourcing stuff more. I'm like, I got a GC on my one flip. He's doing it all. The one I just did in Paulsboro, because it was such a cosmetic flip and it was very quick, and the actual property was very close to my house, within a good distance. I was using guys that I do side work with, as they work for a contractor as it is. So I got a really good rate, but I GC'd that just to get it done. And we got the flip done in 19 days. And we got it under contract 2 days before we finished the flip. So 2 days on market, full asking price. So I bought the house in less than 30 days, and we got it under contract 21 days later. Hadn't even filed the deed yet. I found out through title, so we're working that out. But to go back to your question, I have self-managed for a lot, but I'm actually needing to hire an assistant. But my biggest excuse about doing that is like, oh man, I got to train an assistant. I got to find time to train somebody, and I'm still building my systems. I just switched to Buildium, which is a property management software, where I was basically all over the place. One dependent would go to the TD bank and deposit cash because they don't have a checking account or whatever. This person would send me Venmo, and this one would do Cash App. And then, I have multiple bank accounts I have a different bank account for every property, different LLC. So you're commingling money and everything, and then it's just a mess. So I realized I had to get organized. So I just set myself up with Buildium, learning how to use that, and other things in my business where I'm kind of pumping the brakes on being a realtor and everything else, so I can focus on mainly just building the portfolio. And I haven't wholesaled a single thing all year. I've made a pretty good amount of money doing wholesaling, but I've JV'd, where I had other wholesalers that I'm very close with that I bring my buyers that were actually cash, because during COVID, a lot of people couldn't get funding because literally private money, you could get funding, but hard money was almost non-existent in some areas. And refis for no doc was not even happening. So people weren't able to execute even though they got it under contract. And I got a good relationship with some good local Jersey wholesalers, Phil, Justin, a bunch of other, where I've done multiple wholesales JVs this year, where I didn't even actually have to assign anything as well. So that was another. So I'm trying to focus on those three things, not really be a realtor. The flipping thing just sort of came into existence this year for me. Like, I had done rehabs, but I did them as holds. But I'm like, okay, the market's hot. I'm going to get top dollar. And I'm only going to focus on things that I can get in and out of in less than 30 days. More or less cosmetic rehabs, stuff like that. Nothing structural, nothing too down the studs where you have to redo plumbing, wiring, stuff like that. Just something very cut and dry and simple. And if the numbers work, if I can pull out 20 to 30,000 minimum, I'm happy, but I want to do more, obviously. But those little projects will add up and just keep that going. But yeah, I do need an assistant. How I'm going about it, I don't know. It's definitely weighed heavily on my mind, as I have been super stressed out, had high anxiety, which I'm used to that pressure, but man, doing everything on your own, man, you're not yourself, stomach problems, you're just always anxious and everything. And I've taken a lot more mental health days lately than I normally do. I'm usually just go, 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 go. But you just got to be in tune with your body and mind, and just know that when you have to take a break, you have to take a break. And you have to know when to say no to people, and I have no problem doing that. And I'm glad that I'm blessed to have that luxury of not just having to say yes, 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 I'll take on something because I need the money or this or that, but you can pick and choose your projects and what you can and can't do. I feel like I'm at that level now. So that's the only way I can really answer that question, current moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good problem to have. I know as far as the mental health days, that's definitely important when you're, getting to that next level, or, like doing multiple projects. I mean, I know I do that fairly often, like even today after this interview, and we have, Joey and I have potentially one more meeting. And then after that, like pretty much shutting my phone off for business stuff and just headed out to the city with my fiance. Yeah, I guess as far as this podcast, if you're in the South Jersey / Philly area, right?
I don't do anything in Philly, but I'm just outside Philly. So I'm like in the Cherry Hill area. Yes. Yep. That's where I live and where I do. So I do a lot of work. And I do a lot of work really far south, like Salem County, down by the Delaware Memorial. That's where the majority of my portfolio is, honestly. And that's 45 minutes from where I live. It's just where the deals were, and they still be. So I know that area well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have 3 units someone brought us in Salem, so maybe we could talk after this.
I think I know who that person might be too.
Small world. I guess anyone here is listening to the podcast. If you're interested, Bill is looking for an assistant. Feel free to reach out to him. His information will be in the show notes. Yeah, who knows? Maybe you get someone. I know a couple of our other guests have had a good amount of people reach out to them. So Bill, I guess that kind of, how many projects have you done this year, and what's your goals for 2021?
Going into this year, my goal was to have 16 rental properties, but that was me coming in with only 3, as I had purchased one in December of last year. So I really wasn't counting that one. My goal was to get 16 rentals units, like it could be a 4 unit and that could be 4. Currently, I am working on two flips. One flip's under contract, so it's done, but it hasn't closed yet. We're closing on January 8th. The other one that I'm doing right now is actually scheduled to go on the market on the 7th of June, so it's simultaneous. We finished the Paulsboro flip that's under contract and started the Carney's Point flip literally a day apart. So it's almost like they're in session with each other, kind of in line. And I got a bunch of other deals in escrow with some wholesalers that we're JVing on. And right now, today I'm scheduled to check out 3 properties. One might be a flip and 2 are multifamily. So I'm looking to pick up a couple more properties before the end of the year. I might not close on them, but I'm probably going to get them under contract at least before the end of the year, and obviously close at the beginning of the year. So That's really my goal and what I'm sort of working on. As a realtor, I kind of pump the brakes on some realtor stuff so I can focus on the investing on too much and just kind of, I have this saying on my dry erase board in my kitchen. It said, be grateful for today and focus on your one thing. It's obviously the book by Gary Keller, and it's just focus on narrowing your gap to being narrow versus wide, my thinking. So basically fixing, flip, and buy and hold is what I'm really focusing on now.
So Bill, you said 16. How far off are you from that?
Well, I'm at 10, so I just need 6. And if I would have to pick up a 6 unit before the end of the year, but if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But either way, I set goals that are bigger than what I'm going to possibly achieve. So, you set your goals bigger than you probably will accomplish, which is okay, because you're going to hit a major milestone regardless, and you're going to get there. So set your goals higher than you anticipate to go, or set your goals so high that, you know the saying. That's kind of how I like to do it. So I came up with a good number, and I'm like, that seems feasible. I had some opportunities where I could have bought more properties, but I was focusing on other things like deals as a realtor, this and that. That's why I want to pump the brakes on the realtor thing, because that's today money. I need forever money. I'm not focusing on the short term. I'm focusing on the long term. A few things that Sean mentioned that I was known for finding tenants and screening them. I made my name for myself out of finding tenants for private landlords, doing it fairly quickly. I had a system for marketing, lead gen, screening the tenants and everything. That's essentially how I got a name for myself within the group that me and Sean are in right away. So I didn't do deals right away, but I was a part of other people's deals, and everyone knew who I was because I made a name for myself, a service or a value that I brought to the community. But I don't do that anymore. So I don't focus on that this year. And I stopped that last year. So that's why I've had such a good growth this year, because I focused on things that aren't important anymore and put those on the back burner, or just took them off the stove altogether for them not to be cooked up ever again. I guess that's probably why I didn't get to my goal. That's not an excuse, but I did focus on some things at the beginning of the year. And, beginning of COVID, I did thrive through COVID. I made a lot of money, did a lot this year, but there was a lot of downtime. It's like a roller coaster. I went through a lot of anxiety, some depression too, because 2020 was a rough year. I don't think anybody was 100% mentally stable on any sorts of level. So, being as I work on my own business, and, I'm not married, I'm single, and everything, I don't have a family. So I just had to focus on me, and I wasn't around my network of like-minded people in person or on a regular basis. You kind of had to keep yourself mentally stable and focused on everything. So there was a lot of periods where I didn't want to do things certain days, and I wasn't as motivated. Regardless of all that, I had a pretty good year overall.
Somebody's going to listen to this and say, get this man a 6-unit ASAP.
Yeah, right. I know someone who's selling one. He might use seller financing. He loves notes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you brought up about mental health and issues like that. So on the show, we really don't talk much about it. I'm kind of happy you're making people aware of it, and that, even though you're a fairly successful real estate investor, you're still going through it as well, just like anyone else would. There's a lot of people that are not doing as well, that are probably, making $10 an hour, $15, $20 an hour, and they're going through that themselves. Right. So that's pretty awesome. And, I want to thank you, and also, on the other end, congratulate you for making people aware of that,
Thank you.
And having the courage to even say that, on a show, right?
Yeah. Well, Sean knows me very well. I'm very outspoken, and I'm an open book. You get what you get with me. I'm pretty straightforward. So, I have nothing to hide. And if me saying that helps somebody, or someone else can relate to that, and they get value out of that, that's great. I'm not making myself vulnerable or weak or anything. Yeah, everybody goes through ups and downs, but you know what? It's a testament to my mindset. I feel like if I did go through that, and then I got through it, and here I am, and still managed to thrive and be happy. And, I think I handled it pretty well, relatively well. And I'm thinking there's a lot of people that are, like you said, are not handling it very well. They don't have jobs there, or they're at a job where they're not making enough money, or they don't have money at all, and they can't find work. It's interesting times we're living in. So when people tell me how I get people in my personal network, people on Facebook, and my people I grew up with and stuff, saying, hey, it's inspirational. It's really great what you're doing, or it's great to hear. I'm just I don't take that seriously because I'm not used to accepting that, but I hear it and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm kind of humbled by it. It really makes me feel great. So if I can go and give that value to somebody just by, saying what I'm saying and just being completely transparent without masking or just not bringing it up in general, yeah, I think that's a good thing. But yeah, you're right. As entrepreneurs, we know, like, up and down roller coaster. I got this. I don't, every day, So that's a big part. They see the successes. They don't see the struggles. They don't see the sacrifice. They don't see the stuff you go through inside out. I just try to control the inside as much as I can. The external is not controllable, so I don't even try. I try, but I preach it better than I practice sometimes. But
no, you're very brave to do that. You're very brave to do that. So it kind of brings me to the next subject, right? I know you read a lot, actually listen to a lot of like audiobooks and things like that and podcasts. Did you have one or two that you recommend to the audience?
I actually, believe it or not, I just got done on, I haven't read a lot this year. Just haven't been able to find the mental focus to do it. So I've been doing a lot of Audible, obviously, just to stay in tune and to stay focused on something. But Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. It's a great book. It is actually, if you do the Audible version, it is narrated by him. It's about his stories of his life and everything. And if a lot of people don't know, he's a motivational, inspirational speaker and everything too. He's had a very interesting life and has a really awesome outlook on life. There's certain green lights in life, there's yellow lights and red lights, different moments where you always like, stop, slow down, go with this. You got to take advantage of opportunities and those red lights and green lights in life. So that's a good book that I read this year that was really stand out, which was not really like business, because I do a lot of business books and stuff about that's related to real estate and some mindset stuff. But that was just an overall good book about his life, but then it had the message of the red lights and green lights in life and things, and I could relate to that as well, because I'm a bit of a free spirit and I like to go and do what I want, and I'm adventurous and stuff, so I kind of related to that book. That was pretty good.
That's
awesome.
That's awesome. We just actually had another guy like the other day mention some of his favorite books were like athlete books. So this is actually different, than the Rich Dad Poor Dad from some people and things like that. I mean, not knocking Rich Dad Poor Dad,
not at all.
But like it's just good to have variation.
Right. Well, I feel like I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, and sometimes it just feel like they're just regurgitating the same thing over and over again, and it almost is like you've listened to this before, but it's not really taking you to another level where you're getting new information a little bit, but not quite at the level that you want it. It's not feeding you the amount of information you want. So, got to break up the monotony of certain things, and as well. And podcasts, of course. Yours, come on.
Thank you.
I catch it when I can't, like if a YouTube pops up with you guys or something on Facebook. I haven't caught every episode. I tried starting in the beginning when you guys did this a year ago, but I couldn't keep up. But your guys' podcast is good. And what is it? One thing I had been tuning in, Jay Massey, Cash Flow Diary, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Decent. I pop in on that from time to time. So that's a good podcast. There's a lot of other ones that I listen to, but that's a good one right there. And obviously, Bigger Pockets I have been plugging into more recently. Content wasn't as good, or I just kind of like plugged in other stuff. But Bigger Pockets has been pretty decent lately.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, or that you would give to someone getting started in real estate?
Best advice I have been given. Wow, that is. Best advice. I would probably have to say best advice that I had been given. Focus on you and don't pay attention to any of the noise around you. That's just very plain and simple. Focus on you and mind your own business, really. It's so simple. It's just, that's it. It's one of the best advice I've been given. But another advice I've always had people say, just don't be afraid to take action based on the feelings or the opinions of other people. And I never have. I would like to have people like me, but I don't need people to like me or to approve of what I do, for that matter. The only two people that matter as opinions to any level are the people that brought me into this world. The two people, my mom and dad. But even what they say doesn't always matter to the level where I'm going to make a decision. So, I would just say be free with your own thinking and don't be afraid to do what you want to do and take chance, because a lot of people will tell you that it's not the right thing to do. You shouldn't do this because of this, that's, and whatnot. Either because they're naysayers or they're actual people that really genuinely care about you. They just don't know as well. So they don't want you to fail, but you have to fail, clearly. So yeah, that's all I can think of. I can't really, the best advice you got me, you put me on the spot, and normally I can answer that, but I know there's something else other than that, but that's all I can really come up with, man.
No, that's fine, man. You know, don't worry about it.
No, we don't want you to rehearse too much, man. This is good.
No,
just right off the top.
Dude, you're getting me in my Jeep in front of Nick's Pizza in Washington Township. So you're getting me just on the go and for real. I'm not putting up some funny beach background on my Zoom, which is pretty cool. I haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Still don't know how to do that one.
Yeah, I've tried, but that's why I need an assistant.
Old people.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it either.
Yeah. I know that this past 6 months has been really tough, you know, for everybody in COVID and stuff. We don't know how long it's gonna last, right? So I think we had a nice year to adjust to a new way of life and stuff. What does your next year look like for the next 6 months? How have you adjusted and going to apply the changes going on?
Well, I don't think I've really adjusted. I've just been kind of going with the wave that's been kind of going. To adjust, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to look for market trends, emerging markets. I'm going to consistently keep my eyes and ears up to the ground, boots on the ground to the market. What's the best strategy to go with? And God forbid if there is a crash in the real estate business, or if there is some kind of depression or some kind of recession, us as problem solvers, real estate investors, how are we going to be able to capitalize on that? Because we're entrepreneurs, but at the same time, not take advantage of people and help them. Creative strategies like, seller finance, subject to whatever emerges from this. But we could come out of this unscathed and fine. Maybe not. It's hard to tell, the way things are, employment, etc. But more or less just having the tools and being prepared to kind of pivot or take another direction with your business because of, use the Burr method. If you just flip or whatever, flipping might not be in the cards where you're not going to get the return. Houses aren't going to sell, whatever. It might be a buyer's market instead of a seller's market. There could be 1,000 houses on the market. So my plan is just to be prepared for any and all scenarios. I feel like my business is sort of Teflon proof, recession proof. It's like Teflon, I feel sometimes, because we're in the housing business. We have rentals. We all do. If God forbid I couldn't buy any more rentals because money ran up and people didn't want a private lend or whatever, I still have the tenant rental consulting I could fall back on, and I could train a team of people with the systems that I created to do the lead gen and do that as well. There's just things to fall back on. You can't stay on your current path. You're not always going to be at the top, but always be prepared to have something to fall back on. That's not like giving yourself the mindset that you're going to fail, like having a plan B, because sometimes people say having a plan A, if you have a plan B, you're already setting yourself up mindset wise to fail. But if you already have something in place that you could fall back on, like a service or whatever, just be prepared to start that up again and be able to continue living and growing your business. Maybe you step back to go forward.
No, I get it. I wouldn't even say that it's falling back on. It's just pivoting with what the market is doing.
Right.
Because let's say the market, just tanks for whatever reason. Now it's like, okay, great. I'll buy all multifamilies from now on, won't be looking for single family houses. Then on top of that, I'd probably be looking at purchasing instead of conventionally with like hard money or something. I'll do subject to a lot more, most likely. There's always, the good thing about real estate is there's always something you can do around real estate. There's so many ways to make money from it.
Mm-hmm. If somebody else had to talk, hopefully I'm not cutting anyone off. But to answer that was my answer to the real estate portion of that question. But I'm looking to venture into new, uncharted territory for me. I want to get into automated businesses like laundromats, stuff like that. I want to look into things. Those are things that I love. Real estate's my passion, but I also want to be able to do other things too. I want to have real estate be the step up for me to venture into other businesses and expand my horizons as an entrepreneur. Honestly, that's sort of like real estate because you could own the building and lease it out, or you could, actually own the business and you're leasing from somebody else. It doesn't matter, but maybe laundromats and not having any overhead, having credit where they accept credit cards and have it all automated, stuff like that as well. And I also own some commercial real estate, mixed use. So commercial is something else I want to get into a lot more as well. But I would need to be smart about that because a lot of brick and mortar, as we know, are going out of business due to COVID and so on. So that's another strategy I want to get into, but you got to be a little more decisive about it, I suppose. So that's another thing I'm looking to do for 2020.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
You know, Bill, thanks for, you know, like being on the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, we appreciate you. You know, you've given a lot of insight, you know, both in business and, you know, like in mental health and, you know, like just in general.
Nice. Good. I'm glad I could add some value. Thanks for having me. Honestly, I always think when you guys started that, I'm like, I want to be on that. But I think I made a joke to Joey one day, like on direct message. We were talking about something. Maybe it was like something on my Facebook story, and I was like, "Hey, when am I going to be on the show?" Or I made some joke, or like maybe I'll be as big as you and be on the show someday. And then Joey's like, "Really? Let's set it up." I was making a joke. I don't know if I was being serious because people who really know me know I'm just a smartass. And obviously, I created that opportunity, and here I am. So that was pretty cool. Thanks for having me on, Joe and Jonathan and Sean. Thank you for being a part of this, man. You made it even better, even though you're covering up your face and all that ugliness, as we like to.
Yeah, he's not covering it for COVID.
Yeah.
I am. Actually, I am.
Bro, that joke will never run old.
I'm glad it's attached to us forever.
But guys, thank you very much for being on. And for our audience, don't forget to like and subscribe and share the show. Guys, thank you very much.